Hey, it's Joe, and welcome to episode 421 of the Test Guild Automation Podcast. And today I want to share with you a webinar I recently did with Larry Goodard, who is an automation architect and creator of the klassi-js automation framework, and also the folks from Inspired Testing, hosted by Gian, who is a consulting and architect at Inspired Testing. I don't know if you know, I may have said this a few times, I'm always uncomfortable talking as a speaker and not a host, but Larry does it really well, and he drops some real gems that I think you really want to hear, so you definitely want to listen all the way to the end. Also, I'm in the early stages of planning Automation Guild 2023, and currently the call for speakers is over, and we're now in the voting stages of what sessions you want to have at the 7th annual Automation Guild, taking place February 6th to the 10th of 2023. So all Guild conferences, if you don't know, are attendee-led, and we take a really democratic approach to find out what sessions you want or things that you're struggling with, rather than me making assumptions about topics and titles that are going to give you value in the new year. So the way to do that is to vote on our sessions, and voting on the sessions and the speakers is totally anonymous. We have the titles and the description that the speaker submitted, and just based on that title and description, you can vote on all the ones you're interested in. So I think we have over 100. So just go in and upvote all the ones that you have interest in, and then based on those results, I see what the highest voted ones are and put together a program based on what you're struggling with to ensure that we have the most relevant, high quality content for you to help accelerate your automation testing efforts in the new year. So vote now. To do it, all you need to do is head on over to testguild.com/vote. That's testguild.com/vote. Hope to see you at Automation Guild 2023. The Test Guild Automation Podcast is sponsored by the fantastic folks at Sauce Labs. Their cloud-based test platform helps ensure your favorite mobile apps and websites work flawlessly on every browser, operating system, and device. Get a free trial. Visit testguild.com/Sauce Labs and click on the exclusive sponsor section to try it for free for 14 days. Check it out.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm here with Test Guild founder and podcast host Joe Cantinho and test automation architect, creator of klassi-js, Larry Goddard. Low code, no code, lots of code, very little code. Guys, let's talk about that. Welcome, everyone. It's not a new concept, low code and no code, right? We've seen it before. The guys who are old like us in business components and those kind of testing. But what is it, right? Is it something we should be talking about? Are we just wasting our time today? And why should we? So kick it off and just tell us a little bit about your view on what it is, and is it worth talking about, right, Larry?
It's something, like I say, something I've been going on for a real while now. You know, the whole no code, low code, record and playback, and all kind of stuff. It's been something we've been living with for years now, and I think now is a really good time to have these little discussions, especially with the whole AI AL intervention into the arena. So so that's how I look at it. It's one of these component added on thing now. You have it, the whole low code, no code from a test automation point of view, and you have it from a whole developer's point of view. And, and that's where we need to look at. So specifically for me, I just look at it from an automation point of view, because that's where I live, inside this arena. So yeah, I think it's something definitely worth not just this discussion, but I think it's something that we should all be talking about, especially from on a corporate level.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like Larry said, I've seen more and more of it just because, I speak with a lot of people on my podcast, and someone mentioned there was a Gartner report or a Forrester report where they said, I think 70% of all development is going to be done on a Lowcode platform by 2025. And I speak with a lot of developers that use tools like bubble.io. So if developers are using these low code, no code type of platforms, then you would think that why would they then do code-based testing to create their tests for it? So based on what kind of applications someone's developing, as more and more people go cloud native, they're using more like SaaS-based, like SAP, Oracle type applications. Those are all no code, low code. So I think there's a place in large enterprises where there's a lot of these applications that don't have testing. And I think the reason why is a lot of testers aren't in that particular vertical, or they have a lot of users there, like business users, that don't necessarily have coding skills that allow them to automate this. And that's a big gap. So that's why I think we're seeing more and more of this low code, no code coming out, because it's not, seems like a lot of the no code, low code are all kind of, most that I've been seeing are more towards like SAP, Oracle type applications, these pre-packaged applications type of testing. I don't know if Larry's seen the same thing, but that's where I've seen them going after. But then obviously if those start taking root, then I could see them going to handle a lot more of the more web-based applications that we've traditionally seen with developer-based tooling.
Yeah, go for Larry.
No, go ahead.
No, I want to say, yeah, absolutely right. And you've mentioned it as well. I think Joe touched on it on a corporate strategy level. Maybe it is something more than just in the automation world, right? Yes, it accelerates things like you said, Oracle and SAP definitely. And we're seeing a lot more in the automation space as well, in the web-based automation, mobile automation space, where these things are coming in. But Larry, from you're also a guy who created frameworks before and still actively doing so, right? Are we moving the code to a lower level, or are we eliminating the code at all? So are we moving towards an easier way for automation frameworks to operate as well?
No, I wouldn't say. I mean, that's one of the general concept that a lot of people go away with. That we can remove all this coded frameworks out of the way and use all these low code, no code thing. But when you look at it from that aspect, you have to ask yourself. One of the questions that pops into mind is, okay, so we have these developers that build things using low code, no code, but we have these testers now that is going to join that fray and start doing it that way. And one of the big issues I personally have with that is when something go wrong. When something go wrong, because you don't have that knowledge, that whole knowledge of coding and everything, then where are we? And that that reminds me of back in the day with Load Runner. With Load Runner, it was a whole that's one of the whole low code, no code thing with Load Runner, because it was a whole plug and play, drag and drop and stuff when you organize it. But when something go wrong, it takes you more time to try and figure it out than it would have if you was actually literally coding yourself. And I think so. The whole point about it is good, but I think it should remain added tool in a coder's toolbox, if that makes sense. It should be an added tool in a coder's toolbox, because if I say, Joe, here is this, it run it. It's no code, easy, just drag, drop, pull, and he does it. If it fails, he could go back and realize, oh, that is why it failed. If I give that to somebody new in the world, they won't have the first clue where to start looking to try and unearth the thing. So although it's good, there's still, I think there's still too much cons against it becoming mainstream, where you would see real coders for the conversation, real coders being sidelined for no code, low code.
Yeah, I'm torn because as you can see, we're graybeards, so we have like a history with low code, no code solutions, like Larry just mentioned, like WinRunner, Business Process, Quick Test Professional. But I think technology has gotten better and it has advanced. So I don't know if I'm being prejudiced because I have I started off with those tools and I saw how they didn't really fulfill that promise. And I mean, looking at tools 20, 25 years later and thinking they're the same thing, I'm kind of thinking maybe they're probably not the same thing. Technology has gotten better. I understand Larry's concern, but also, how much coding is actually coding nowadays? People are pulling in GitHub libraries and it's almost like they're doing low code now. It's little code based, but it's more like a more English friendly kind of syntax nowadays. So what is low code? What is no code? I think as time goes on, it's going to become more and more the norm. And obviously, I think a lot of these tools, like Larry said, if something fails, you want to be able to look at it. But I think over time, they'll get better. I've seen a lot of really fantastic technology that even runs in production and then just sniffs your traffic. And then it can generate tests based on real user interactions. And then I think what's interesting is people kind of devalued manual testers. I know people hate that term, but a tester that didn't necessarily do a lot of coding, that had business knowledge. And then they said, oh, you need to be a coder, you need to be a developer. And so people are learning all these crazy things about design patterns in Java, but then they're not a good coder or a good tester at that point, or a good tester. So, but now I think testers, when they come to these low code, no code, are getting more value because they can look at these things and say, I know how the test should be, and I don't have to worry about, all this stuff that doesn't necessarily go into my domain as a tester. So now pros and cons, I guess. I'd love to know what people think in the chat. So if you have any thoughts, let us know, and I'll mention it.
Exactly, John. And then we need to look at it also as where it started, where it's going, and what it is for. Because when you're talking, if we come out of testing for a minute and we look at business processes, right? Business processes, low code, no code is ideal, awesomely placed for that, because it's business processes, and it's like a pipeline. You have a pipeline doing stuff. So you check some code in and just automatically do something, and something else take place. So it's the business process, and it follows it all the way through, which is perfectly fine. And it's really productive in the sense that now all the, like we call them, the business executives, all these people, they don't have a first knowledge of it, but all these no-code, low-code tools, especially the no-code ones, where you just drag and drop something into place and it works. All those are really, really good. But my and again, this is just like I say, my thing here is my little fear is we'll end up running where where people started talking about, they're bringing in automation robots to do stuff, and then everybody manually is going to lose the job.
Right.
Exactly.
I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Exactly.
You look at tools like I don't know if I can I mention tools there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I'm just using Apply tools as an example, just because I've known them for years. I like their approach where in visual validation, they're able to do things that you couldn't do as a manual tester. You couldn't do coding per se. It's looking at a screen, it's checking differences between visual things, things that are overlapping, but it takes a human to look at it to say, okay, it's bubbling this up as an issue. It's a real issue, but a human needs to go, yes, that's an issue. No, that's an issue. I think that's where we're heading. Not necessarily we're being replaced, but it's more like we're going to get these automated bubbled up insights. And then you need to go in as a human with their brain and go, all right, is this doing what I think it's doing? Should it be, is this correct? Is it not correct? So I don't know if we're going to get full blown, everyone's being replaced. I just think all the skills we have are just going to be transferable to, other areas as time goes on.
Yes, it's true. But it's true. Especially, and like I say, like Appy tools, I've used them for a while as well. And that's what it is now, instead of you actually having to sit there and go through 8 different viewports, manually think, you can just get it running like that. So it is, there's a massive improvement for over the years with technology. But like we will always say, I don't think we will ever reach to the point of where human is known for. As I said, that brings to mind the whole autopilot things in planes.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yep. Well, how many pilots really fly a plane now, though? That's a good point. It's all autopilot. Maybe they just do it for landing and taking off, and then they're just doing nothing during the whole flight.
Yeah, like I was saying the other day, can you imagine you board your plane and then you hear, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Larry Cuddy, your captain speaking. But I'm working from home today.
That's true. But yeah, right. But they need to be on board to look at the gauges and everything. But yeah, I definitely, and to be able to jump in if anything goes wrong. I think that's a really good analogy. But Larry, I'm just curious to know, you use WebDriver IO. And so someone could use Selenium and create a framework from scratch. Well, they can use WebDriver IO that does a lot of things for them automatically. So that to me seems almost like a gateway to more low-code solutions, right? Because it handles a lot of the weights for you automatically. So I'm just curious to know what your thoughts are about that. Do you find WebDriver to be more of a heading towards that path, or frameworks like that?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, because I have experience one with both of them, and 2 with the fact that I actually use WebDriver as the engine block for klassi-js, and you find that. So what I find is that things like IO, Cypress, just to name a few off the top of my head. Is the way to package it and the way to take the existing technology and brings it into the modern era with everything the modern that's going on. And so where that is concerned, that's how I look at it. And for me, they're doing good, and I think that's the direction they're going in terms of how they wrap things up and how they make things simpler for the user, and that in itself is a big plus. And in saying that, I look in this chat and I see somebody asking a question about enterprise tools and affordability and things.
Yeah,
and that is what just in saying that. Let me just open something here. In saying that, you have to answer that question is a yes or no to that question, the balance and trade-off. Because with API tools, you have it's on a big scale, and you have it. If you use a small organization, there are a lot of open source tools that you could use. So let's take klassi-js, for instance, which is my framework. I just use node resemble JS. That what that does, that is the equivalent to what the whole API tools platform does. It checks, it checks images against each other, from very minute things to one pixel or 0.05 of a pixel to ensure that nothing didn't move and things. So there's a trade-off, there's a balance. If you're small, there are open source tools that could do what you want. And then when you think about it, if you're a small organization, and I'm saying this lightly, so I hope API tools will bite my head off. You really don't actually need to go for something, that expensive and in terms of affordability to that. It's the same thing for things like Jira, for once a better word. There are other little ones that you could use as a small organization. I mean, if you start to grow, well, then of course you look for the better tools to go with it.
Yeah, I think, and that answer is great. I agree with that, right? And to bring it back to the Lowcode thing, I think it shifts where your skill set, your required skill set needs to be, right? So again, with your example, Larry, you need more technical guys to implement these open source things, and the same with the Lowcode thing, right? So if you are shifting the automation capability, let's call it that, to a higher level, and something goes wrong, you still need a lot of skills here, right? So we're kind of transferring the skill set needed and the guys fixing the problems to a lower level, but it doesn't go away. And I think similar to this is, sorry, the open source things does require a different skill set and sometimes a more advanced skill set to maintain and run and implement and look at the problems. And I think, and this is kind of the question around this leading up from this is, so if we go low code and we have all these fancy solutions that anyone can run and anyone can automate, are we not just shifting the problem lower down or shifting the problem left and creating a bigger problem for the people having to implement and maintain and fix?
Oh, I mean, I'll take a shot at that. I think other thing is like that dramatic and down the road, because when you think about how people interact with things and how people coming in do things. Now, if you come into the ring, let's say you're new, you come in. You can now go online and you could go, let's say GitHub, for instance, and you could literally take down an entire working framework, and with little intervention from you, it will work. You take it down, you follow the few instructions you have, and it will work straight off. The only time you find, and this is again the whole low code thing, and this is what require what I would call low code. For an attachment. If you pull klassi-js down, it's complete. It's folder structure is there, it's pull everything is required. All you now need to do is be able to, let's say, find elements on a page to do something. And then even that, you don't even need to really worry about much like when I was doing it back in the day. Now you have a lot of tools out there that will do that for you. A lot of plugin tools that you would use to do that for you. And so yeah, the low code thing is, like I say, it's good. No argument on it is a real thing. But my only, and that carries me back to my original point on it, is that I just personally find it's just nothing that somebody new coming into the area should just take off the bat and run with and build a whole career around it. Let's say that for argument's sake. I think you should still look to develop yourself and into what coding actually is. So, you have both. You don't really use it much, but at least you have the idea, like you say, if something goes wrong, you'll be able to help yourself without having to get on the phone and then pay somebody a lot of money to explain that to you.
Yeah, I think you need some literacy, coding literacy for sure, to help you. But obviously, I think, every situation is different. Like you were saying, there's enterprises, there's smaller companies like Lloyd, a low code solution. You should do a proof of concept to see if it actually is going to do what you need it to do. Don't forget about working on your skills as well for coding. But I think as we get old, there's always a swing. Before I used to be like, Windrunner, record, playback, QTP, keyword driven, don't need a code. Selenium, you need to be a developer. Now you're doing developer. You go to, I remember being a tester for a long time and then doing a job interview after a while. And I'm like, what's going on? I'm on a whiteboard trying to talk about, development things. I'm like, what is this? And so now I think it's swinging back to, testers. And so I think it's like I said, you never know. You just need to kind of help your organization where they're at. Use the right tools at the right time, and don't forget about, you need to be fluent in coding, because it is the language that we still all use for speaking with one another. But yeah, I guess it's a trade-off.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, this is a concept business loves, right? So from a business case, this is fantastic. All the pros are there from a business perspective. Now, with my test add-on, and especially with my automation engineer add-on, is this something I should stress about, right? And you said you still need coding, but is this, and Larry said, don't build a career on it. But if business gets excited and I'm an automation engineer sitting here, is this something I should be worried about? How does it affect my life? Do I jump at this and say, well, and you mentioned that, Joe, knowing how to code is fine, but I need to go down this route because this is what business wants and this is the value? Or is it something that I need to step back a little bit as automation? You say, all right, I know about this. I know about this technology. I know about where I can use it, but it's not necessarily the only thing for me. So how does it? I think my question is more: how does it affect me as an automation engineer in organization at the moment? And should I be worried?
I don't think you should be worried. I mean, like I said, when I started my career in 1990s, automation is going to replace testing, or automation is going to go away eventually, and it's going to be really automated. It's going to be a push a button. I'm still here, so I think a lot of people have unnecessary fears, and you always need to look out for your best interest, though. Once again, I don't know if this is going off topic, but I worked for a large organization for 12 years and then I was laid off. And so if I just drank the Kool-Aid and just did what they wanted me to do and only focus on their products, I'd have no skills. So the trade-off is you need to help your organization, but you need to also be aware of things that are out there and skills that are in demand, and don't overlook that. So it's,
Yeah, I mean, adding to that, like you'll say, I think is when coming to the trade-off, and like I mentioned earlier, the whole idea is using it is not the issue, is what you do after the fact.
Right.
You have your work for organization and they're sending you down a particular path, because that's what that organization uses and it works for them. But what you have to do on the other hand is you have to upskill yourself. A lot of things come along, a lot of things change, and you have to be aware, and you need to be able to, to know, one, be aware that it's there. Two, you need to start pulling them for yourself on your own time, doing what we call it the POCs, and ensure, oh yeah, this is what this could do this, and you just keep that in your hat, because you may not work for that organization all your life. You may move tomorrow, and then when you reach tomorrow, it's a whole different concept. So the whole idea of so what it takes me, for instance, at where I work, we uses the klassi-js as the underlying tool there, and the idea is once things come out, what I tend to do, I look at what it is, I look at what it could do, I look at what the framework could do now, and see, oh, would this be a good improvement to it? If we pull this in, would it, really work, and things like that. So you have to keep yourself in that balance. You learn it, you keep it, and you may not reuse it right away, but at least you have it. And just like Josie, if he did stay working for John Snooks Incorporated all the time, he wouldn't have no other skills than what he learned there.
Right, and it's a good point, like Larry said. You're also a leader. So it's not necessarily like I'm going to get my skills because if I get laid off, I'm going to have skill. It's also, you could say, okay, I have skills to help them with other things, higher level things, like, or be able to tell them, hey, this low code, no code thing, it's a great idea, but here's the reasons why it's not going to work on this project or that project, or maybe it'll work here and not there. So giving you skills to help your current organization, but also making yourself better to help if you were to get laid off. So once again, the balance, but also as we go towards DevOps, it also can let you be more aware of other things to help your organization and say, okay, I can help you here, here, and here. And then you probably can get promotions also, because then you're not just focusing on, here's my position, I'm just going to focus on what they're telling me to do. Say, hey, or what you tell me to do makes sense, but here's some issues with it. And I know about this other approach. Let's try that with this, so it's also about leadership.
Right. So what I'm hearing, so it's not necessarily that low code is replacing any other solution, right? What you guys are saying and what I'm hearing is that it's an arrow in the quiver that I can use when the business needs it. It's something that I'm aware of that we can use to solve a problem when a problem arises.
Yes,
right?
yes,
it's not necessarily one or the other.
Yeah,
is that right?
Exactly. I mean, and that just to shift slightly, it also brings in the whole AI bit of it. You have AI and you have frameworks and it's all integrated, AI technology integrated in there. But is it good for, the question then comes, is that then good for an organization that does operate on a project basis? Or is it good for an organization where everything is in-house? And just for argument's sake, and I mean, like, you have these consultancies that do work for other people, right? And if you're talking AI-driven this and AI-driven that, from what I said, that does makes no sense inside an organization like that for a project where you start the project today and over 6 months period, it's done and it's delivered. Because with AI, it's all about continuous learning. Now, if you look at Barclays, and I just call that off the top of my head, if you look at Barclays, that's an organization that runs everything and say, no, AI is good for them. Why? Because if that will be running and that whole system running inside there constantly. So then things now becomes easier, slower and faster for them because it have a base in which to learn from. And that's why a lot of, I think that's why a lot of people start to kind of lose focus a little bit with when you hear, oh, low code, no code, AI, ML. They just forget that little idea of, wait a minute, if we're doing AI, it needs to have a whole learning process inside my environment before it could really add value to what we do in here. And it's all about a trade-off in what you're doing and how it affects where you are in whatever the project is at the time.
Larry just made me think, once again, this might be a tangent, but I think a lot of people look at other companies like Google or Facebook. That's what they do. And they think, oh, I'm going to apply it to my current situation. It's like, it doesn't make sense. Your organization could be totally different. So maybe they're doing some Uber developer crazy stuff that may not even fit into your organization. But also what Larry said about AI machine learning, once again, I think people should try it. There are solutions like free ones, Selenium, which you could use in like Selenium to help you find locators, and uses kind of like a machine learning algorithm to be able to say, if this element's not found, it can leverage what it learned to find that element, so your test will run. So it's just like a give and take. Try things yourself. Don't just believe the hype. See where it can actually help you, and if it can't, then move on. If it can, then then do it. So don't fall in love with tools or an approach to AI machine learning doesn't work for me, or it's all it. Try it and see if it works with your situation. And if it does, great. If it doesn't, that's fine. It depends on your situation, your organization, and your group, I think. It's very situational.
Yeah, absolutely. It brings you to something I always tell my guys is that AI is good, right? I agree that there's a place for AI, but remember, we as humans bring the I part to it, and don't forget the intelligence part of artificial intelligence. I think there's a big drive for us to move away and use these things to say, let's see if we can remove the human intelligence, but that's what we bring to the table in the testing part, right?
Did you make that up? I'm gonna use that. The I in AI is
I made it up. You can use it every time, right? But as testers, that's what we need to do. And it brings me to my next question around these low code things, right? So if I can do low code, am I now an automation engineer? Can I go to the market and say, I'm an automation engineer, I can do automation, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, you can. I mean, I'll be honest, yes, you can.
Yeah.
You can, but then you do that. But then, let's say I'm hiring. Right? I am hiring for a role to do something, and the length of time that I have this project for is 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. Then you find it all depends. Like Joe's been saying constantly, it all depends on what it is need to be done at that particular point in time, and how much time they're actually willing to give to it. Because remember, we're still living in the age where massive organizations still think testing for a covered word, testing is still a thing. Oh shucks, we need to test it before we send it out. It's all year. I mean, massive organizations still operate like that. So yes, you can do it, and then it helps. It helps you as an engineer go there. You say, yeah, you could do this. This is the product it is used. But then what my question here now becomes: what about if the person you're going to work for don't use that? Then what? They have something in place already, and you join in an existing team or something like that, and all your knowledge and experience is within this particular area. Where does that leave you? So that just after your other question, where does that leave you then as an engineer with only this bit of it?
Right. And I think, once again, I don't think we have to get away from one tool for everything. So I don't think you're going to have a situation where you're going to have a no-code, low-code solution that's going to help you with all your automation that you need to do within your software development lifecycle, regardless of what company you work for. So you may have that tool that you can apply to something, but there's going to be other tools or other things. I think people shouldn't just focus in on functional automation as well. Automation should be applied to anything that could save your team time. And so it doesn't necessarily need to require low code and no code. And there may not even be a solution to help you with the performance or accessibility type of automated test or a testing approach. So I think we need to not be afraid of tools and not think that a tool is going to replace us or that you use one tool for all your situations. So people need to make sure that, I don't think we'll ever get to that point. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe in 20 years, but if that's the point, then we're all going to be out of jobs because, if we think that way, then everyone's going to be in the same boat. So what's the point of worrying?
Yeah, I mean, and that is true. It's about, it's getting it all together for your situation. What working for you, what works for that, and not even just your situation. What works for that project at that point. What works for that project at that point. Because in some instances, it is easier. I shouldn't say the word easier. It is better and more economical to do manual testing on that project than it is to do automation. And that is something that a lot of people don't take into consideration as well. And automation in itself is to replace monotony, something that you're going to be doing over and over and over and over and over. You replace that with automation, so you get it done in increased lightning time. The whole thing about cross-browser testing, you have to do it across 7 browsers, different variations. Automation is awesome because if you do that manually, it's going to take a long time, right? And that's what people need to remember. Although we have the no-code, low-code, coded, uncoded, all these nice things are coming along, we still have to think about, is it really relevant to that particular project that we're actually going to work on?
It's a good point. Another thing that comes to mind is when I started, we had our own labs. So we had to have different Windows machines, 3 and 9 point, whatever, all the different versions. And you'd have to have a key to get into the room and have it set up with all the different browsers. So when all these browser-based online services came on, did that replace me? Did that replace the situation? It didn't. So it's just like you said, it replaced the monotony, the things that you don't want to be having to focus on. You don't want to have to focus on maintaining your own lab when you have all these services that can handle it for you automatically. But that doesn't necessarily replace you or make you obsolete. It just helps you focus in, like Larry said, on the important things, not the things that can be automated or things you shouldn't be focusing on.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I have to say this here because the community will be mad if I don't. We get that all testing is manual, right? So automation helps you to check things. And we get that. And we're not, when we're saying automation testing, we mean that the checking of the things you ask it to check.
Don't go on a tangent with this wording, because I can't imagine going into an interview and they say, did you manual test? And go, what? What is that? There's no such thing as manual. Did you automated? There's no such thing as that. You wouldn't get a job. But anyway, I'm not going to go off on that because I'll get in trouble too. But I agree with you. Yes, totally.
But what I'm hearing and what is great to hear from this discussion, at least what you had to know, it's don't stress about it, right? Low code is good, no code is good, coded is good, AI is good, ML is good. Understand what it is, understand where to use it. Put that arrow in there and bring it out when you need it, right? So don't stress that the world's going to end for you. Understand that if your UAT cycles are long and business can contribute to that, you can use some of these solutions, right? You can make it available to them to speed up things, right? Understand what to use, where and when. There's no one answer for anything. And I think as a tester with my testing out on, that's refreshing to hear. It's not panic, it's not run away, it's not find and become a lawyer, it's become know that this tool is there. Put that arrow there, and when you come across a problem, know that there is a solution and this is the solution for it, right?
Yeah. I mentioned it already. There's a lot of package-based applications that a lot of critical businesses built on that I don't think testers are even aware of in their organizations. So your HR systems, your financial systems, that if they go down, your whole company is in trouble, but yet you don't even focus on them. And those are the types of applications that are built with Oracle SAP. They have tools that understand that flow. They understand it. They're in sync with all the release models that doing a code-based approach does not make sense. So using like a no-code solution that's made specifically for that would be perfect. And actually would probably give you more work because you're focusing in on your teams, and you can say to go to your business, well, what are you doing for HR? And a lot of these things are probably not even tested. Say, well, let's bring in a tool that actually focuses on this specifically. So you're focusing in on the right tool at the right place in your right organization. So it's not forcing a tool or a solution all across everything.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. It's all about not being siloed into the one thing rule all. This is what we use and this is what we will use and stuff like that. And one of the things is I always kind of say is that in choosing a tool, on whether it's no code, low code, coded, it doesn't matter. Always choose a tool that the people in the organization that you're working with know how to use it. Not only just know how to use it, can help you as the tester if you have issues. Yeah. So here I am, work for a company that they build everything using Java, just argument's sake. And then I'm the QA and I bring in JavaScript, and nobody knows JavaScript except me. What becomes when I get sick and leave and go for 2 weeks? What happens then? But my thing is, if you're going to choose a tool, look at all the elements around you into, who is on the team, what the skill level at, and everything. Because what you don't want to do is have Joe come on board, and Joe is the QA engineer, and Joe build it up and it's working awesome. And then Joe take a holiday, and something happened, and nobody, the company screwed until Joe come back. They have to be calling him on holiday. Hey, where you at, man? You need to get back here tomorrow. So it's just one of them things that,
You want to be honest, though, where your company is really at, because I guess it goes both ways. I worked for a company where they're like, all our developers use Java. They're going to help with the automation. And so you have testers learning Java, and they have no idea how it's working. They're writing a framework in Java, and it's awful. When, if they use maybe Python, and they may have been better using Python, because ultimately the developers never helped anyway. So now you have developers not helping. You have testers that hate the Java, where they would have been better off using the Python. So you have to be honest with yourself, with your organization. You know what I mean? Because what Larry says makes sense, but like in practice, like for large companies, I've seen I don't know. But in general, I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's. I think, Joe. I think you just I think you said the words better than I was trying to say them. That's the whole point as we get to that. Because a lot of times, and this in the reality is, a lot of times you turn to a developer and ask him something, and he's just too busy. Yeah. The good old I'm too busy. And so working inside your own little silo is good, and it has some weight. And then in other instances, it doesn't carry so much. That bring me to a nice little point. You make kind of outside the realm, but I think it still takes the whole thing. We're dealing with the people who overseeing the QAs or testers or whatever thing, and we're talking about I like call them the QA managers. These people up here, above there. And dealing with people like that. I have a question that lingers, and I'll always like to ask it. How should they be in terms of coding? Whether the code, physical coding, or the into no code, low code, or anything. What should be how to say it? What should be a point where you say, all right, you know what, Joe, you could be the QA manager now because you have knowledge of X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. So now you could then help along with things. Joe, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I guess it all depends for sure. But you just made me think of another point. Sorry, it's kind of off what you just asked, but when you said you developers, when you have the QA manager, developers a lot of times. So like you said, you have to be honest with what your organization is doing. If you're using a low code, no code solution, it kind of takes me back to when I started, when I used WinRunner QTP, a developer would never even touch it. So, even Selenium, when I used Selenium with Java, because that's what the developers are using, they didn't understand Selenium and Java. So even selecting the correct tool like Cypress would have been a better choice. So yeah, I guess it all depends on getting that QA manager on board and making sure they understand the real situation of what's happening and what you think will work best with the team.
You mentioned, and I just want to stay on this point. I know this is not the point, but we often choose our automation framework based on the technology that the developers are using, right?
Yeah.
So are you saying, and this is not a low-code question, but this is a question overall, are you saying that there's some value in that, at least, so someone can help you, or are you saying that choose the tool that you are the best in, and the people around you are the best in? As automation technology.
I know you hate this answer, but it depends, right, Larry?
Yeah, the answer. I'm not going to answer that. The answer it's one of those answers where anything you say is not the right. Any answer, there's no right answer. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah, but it all depends. To be honest, I mean, if you're working in an organization where you have support, I mean, it doesn't really matter what language you're in at the moment, but where you actually could get support, then it doesn't matter. But if you're working in an environment where support is hard to come by, then it matters. Then you need to do something that you could understand and you know how to, and you will be able to help yourself and make things go on if mistakes made. And then a thing that people doesn't pay attention to is your personal network. Right? And yeah, this is completely outside the realm, but it's your personal network. I'm good at what I do, but at times I just get stuck, and I have a little. What you call it, speed dial. I'm stuck. And that's something that people doesn't pay much attention to, and that's something that they need to. Whether you're doing low code, no code, coded, it doesn't really mean you need your support in there too, because even if you're, like you're saying, even if the organization you can't get the help there, then you should have an avenue where you could get help. Now there's a lot of it, but you should still have at least one or two people in your Rolodex that you can actually call on. Because sometimes you need help and you need it right away. And if you post on a forum, it might take a couple hours before you get a response.
Yeah.
So there's no right answer per se, but it just all depends on the actual situation.
Yeah, in a perfect world, I think you would use the same tooling and you would use the same language and be kumbaya and everyone's on board. But, in reality, what I've seen, and it's usually at enterprises, usually when I see teams that say, oh, all our developers test and, everything's great. And if a test fails, everyone stops and fixes it. And I ask, so how many people are in your team? They're like 2 or 3. And I'm like, okay, well, that's why. I mean, if you had an enterprise that was working for 8 to 10 sprint teams with 10 people on each team, and it was just chaos. So it all depends on your situations, very situational, very, what they say, context sensitive.
So where do we learn about these things? We've established it's great. It's something we need. It's the arrow that we need, right? But where do we go find this arrow? Are there good places for testers to learn about low code and no code and their place in the world? Are there forums that we can use, webinars, events that we can attend?
I'll push that one to Joe. Joe, this is one of these things where it comes down to how it works and where it is. Now, I'm gonna what I do, but Joe is the expert in that particular avenue.
Well, Larry mentioned community, so he obviously knows about community. He's in the UK. Everyone probably knows about like Ministry of Testing. If you're in the UK, a great organization. They have test bashes. They have a learning platform. They always have different types of challenges, like automation challenges, low-code challenges. That's a good place. Pitch my own thing, testguild.com. I'm always blogging there. I do podcasts. I have a podcast on automation, on performance, on security. So I think there's podcasts everywhere now. So there's podcasts you can go to. There's organizations like yours. Obviously, these type of communities, all these companies nowadays are doing these free online events. Sure, it's more like for lead gen, they're trying to capture leads, but there are value there as well. I have an online event I run annually I've been doing since 2017 called Automation Guild. It's a 5-day event where we cover end-to-end automation, not just functional automation, so performance testing, security testing, anything to do with automation we cover there. That's automationguild.com. But yeah, I think there's so much out there now. When I started, all there was like a forum, Mercury, and that's where I got my information. There was also something called like SQA Forum, where everyone went to. So like nowadays, there's all kinds of blogs, there's podcasts. People like Larry speaks everywhere. He's on LinkedIn. Like you said, build your community, build your Rolodex, because how great would it be to have Larry on your Rolodex? Yeah. So if you had an issue with JavaScript, like, hey, I know Larry, he actually has a framework that can help me. Just building that relationship is really important. Like Larry said, building up your Rolodex is probably your best place to start. But there's tons of communities out there that are popping up everywhere. Thanks again for your automation awesomeness. For links to everything of value we covered in this episode, head on over to testguild.com/A421. And while you're there, make sure to click on the Try for Free Today link under the exclusive sponsor section to learn all about Sauce Labs' awesome products and services. And if the show has helped you in any way, why not rate it and review it in iTunes? Reviews really help in the rankings of the show, and I read each and every one of them. So that's it for this episode of the Test Guild Automation Podcast. I'm Joe, and my mission is to help you succeed with creating end-to-end, full-stack automation awesomeness. As always, test everything and keep the good. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Test Guild Automation Podcast. Head on over to testguild.com for full show notes, amazing blog articles, and online testing conferences. Don't forget to subscribe to the Guild to continue your testing journey.